So you guys probably saw I recently unboxed the brand new P30 Pro from Huawei. I've got it on the table. Look at the flashy color, of course, the wild periscope lens going on. But that's not the only product that Huawei recently released. They also released the standard P30 non-Pro version of the device, which features a triple camera setup on the back and a lower price tag. So this device here is going to be about $200, around $200 less than the Pro version. So kind of the same idea as the S10e or the iPhone XR, an almost flagship device, so that you can save a few bucks. 6 gigs of RAM, 128 gigabytes of storage. That's what you're getting in the P30. Now there is a Pro model with the same spec for storage and RAM, but then you can expand that through the different versions available of the Pro all the way up to 8 gigs of RAM and 512 storage. This model I have in front of me is 8 gigs RAM, 256 storage. Now let's do a quick comparison here. So color-wise, this is the black version of the regular P30. Now you can tell right away, this is mostly a form factor choice. This one is obviously substantially smaller than the Pro model. 6.1 inch display on this one. Let's just crack this open real quick. Ooh, look at the mirror finish. Now the layout on the back also a bit different. If I just tip that up right there, you can get a better look at the camera unit. It does poke out a little bit further, and of course you can see the different location for the flash and the lack of the time of flight camera that you see over on the Pro model. Now there's another difference I think some people are going to celebrate on the non-Pro model. Would you look at that? A headphone jack sticks around for a little longer. So some people are really into that. Surprisingly, it's on the non-Pro version rather than the Pro one, so some people might gravitate towards it. SIM tool, quick charge power brick, Type-C cable, and a headset included in the box. All right, so you can see here, I have the black version of the regular P30, but it is available in the same color as the Pro and a variety of colors also. The P30 is lacking wireless charging and therefore also wireless charge sharing. I mean, I'm a big fan of wireless charging. Is that a deal breaker? I'm not sure. It depends on the individual. If you do want a flagship Huawei device with wireless charging, you move towards the Pro or the Mate series, and there you go. Here I can see an actual speaker grill right there. And of course you don't see that on the Pro model. This is actually something that I didn't mention in the video, but this is one of those situations where the sound for the earpiece is coming off of the display glass. So that's some new high-tech stuff on the Pro model. You do not have that on the non-Pro model. That's a very comfy form factor. It's kind of nice. Both of them are slender considering the amount of display that you're getting. The screen to body ratio is very similar on both, but you just have a smaller display and therefore a smaller overall body on the non-Pro model. So I spoke in the Pro version unboxing about how this curved edge gave you a really slender feel when you're gripping it. On the non-Pro model, it's a lot more traditional in the sense that you have a wide grip area on the side. Again, more similar to the S10e, whereas the Pro model lines up almost exactly with the standard S10 or S10 Plus with the way it feels in the hand. Over on the side here, we have the power switch in a similar location, also once again identified by that little red accent, which I like. You have the volume rocker over here. The SIM tray is on the other side of the device. And along with the headphone jack, you have the same USB Type-C connector right beside the speaker unit. Okay, so 3650 over here, 4200 over here. Now, granted, you're powering a larger display over here, so battery life is going to be somewhat similar. I would expect the Pro to do a little bit better, but nonetheless, you know, you got a smaller form factor. You're generally getting a smaller battery. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the camera differences here. There you can see the cutouts. Now, they're very similar in shape, but they're actually not identical. Even though you're seeing 3 lenses in the main cutout portion there, they're actually a bit different. So on the ultra-wide camera specifically, on the Pro version, it's a 20 megapixel sensor. The non-Pro is a 16 megapixel sensor on the ultra-wide. Let's do a quick demo. So it should be similar to the last time around, we got, of course, the famous Jack-in-the-Box music box over here. Much like on the Pro model, you start out in the standard focal range. Now, Huawei calls this wide. This is sort of what you're used to. And then from here, I go down to the widest, and as you can see, it's a 0.6. So the focal range is pretty much identical on both of these. I'm gonna do the same over here on the Pro model real quick. So there's your standard focal range. I bring it down, boom, 0.6. It's pretty much identical. So it's just as wide, just a few less pixels when it comes to the non-Pro version. Let's try the zoom out. So the zoom goes up to 5x optically. It stays very high quality at 5x because it's an optical zoom after all. And again, the layout on the Pro model obviously different with the periscope implementation. I don't know how much Kirk can make that out, but you see how that's buried in there? The camera unit is buried down in there. So it's a different implementation. Of course, the device is a different form factor, but we'll do the same thing. So similar situation there. So the camera's very similar. You're still gonna get the night mode on here as well on the non-Pro model. Of course, the software in the camera unit is pretty much identical, and the absence of the time of flight camera could potentially mean that the portrait mode might not function quite as well. It's gonna be leaning more on the software side. We need a proper face for real portrait. There we go. It looks pretty effective to me here. Now let's do it on a Pro model. This one still looks pretty good. Maybe not quite as good. There's obviously software at play as well because the non-Pro version doesn't have that sensor and it still looks pretty impressive. In this environment, those portrait modes look pretty similar on the Pro and non-Pro. All right, now I'm a bit curious about the speaker on the non-Pro model. It does have an earpiece, whereas the other unit does not. I'm curious if this one may actually be louder than the Pro version. Beyond. Okay, so it's a mono speaker setup, very similar actually to the Pro model. We can do a quick A/B. Let's do it, why not? It's not a huge difference, to be honest. If anything, I'd say the Pro is a bit louder. Yeah, the speaker's a bit nicer on the Pro. I also feel like the display might be a bit nicer on the Pro. Full brightness, yeah. It might be hard for you to appreciate, but I think the display on the Pro is a bit nicer. I mean, it's kind of, it might be nitpicky, but it just seems to be a bit more saturated, the image. I mean, they're both very nice displays. I think you'll be happy with either. You're looking at two OLED panels. It could be a slight victory for the Pro, but that's just when they're right beside each other. And maybe that's just because it's also larger. I mean, who knows? If you didn't hear them right beside or look at them right beside each other, you'd be satisfied with either. Now, the only other difference here is the IP rating. You've got IP68 on the Pro model. On the other hand, IP53, so I guess it's not as durable. The Pro model should be a bit more durable than the non-Pro. As you can tell, these two devices, I mean, they have a lot more in common than they do differences. You're talking about the same processor, potentially the same RAM and storage space, 32 megapixel selfie camera. On the rear, it's more same than different as well when you're talking about the cameras, even in portrait mode, which I just showed off there a moment ago. Obviously on the bigger model, you got a bigger display that comes with the form factor. You get a bigger battery that comes with the form factor. Around the edges, that's gonna be personal taste. Whereas the non-Pro model, a more traditional feel in the hand compared to the slim edge on the Pro. I almost forgot the headphone jack. You gotta consider the headphone jack, all right? If you want the headphone jack, you're gonna give up wireless charging. That kind of stinks. I mean, that's not ideal. How are you gonna make this decision if you're looking at these two devices? I think it's actually pretty difficult. It's more difficult than I expected. For me, I will probably reach for the Pro just because I'm such a huge wireless charging guy. Like, that's just, I really missed it when I was using the OnePlus 6T. That said, I am a fan of the form factor. It's super comfy. And then there's the cost. You know, are you getting $200 more in value over here on a Pro model? with the wireless charging in exchange for the headphone jack. I think for some people, yes, some people want to have the absolute flagship. Some people want to have the bigger device, the bigger phone. That's a huge display on there. It's a very nice display. Maybe you can help me decide in the comments, which one should I switch to next? Should it be the P30 Pro, or should it be the regular P30? Which one are you more interested in, and which one should I switch to next?